Hello, it's DG Ice here, and what we've got here today is a deck made around Gengar Prime. Now, the real deck is that it's made around Lost World. So, Lost World's a stadium. It says uh, you can choose to win the game if you have 6 or more Pokemon in your opponent's Lost Zone. So, the best way to do it, and there's really only one other way to get Pokemon in the Lost Zone. So the best way to do it is using Gengar's Hurl into Darkness or his Catastrophe Pokebody or his Hurl into Darkness attack. Um, Catastrophe says that as long as Gengar is the active Pokemon, any Pokemon that would be knocked out is put in the Lost Zone, which is great, except Curse Drop only does 40, only puts 4 damage counter on Pokemon, which is pretty rough. There might be a way you could actually use it where you do a bunch of damage and then use Dusknoir to move the damage counters around. But at that point, all you're doing is knocking out 6 Pokemon. So you're actually doing more work than you should. So the real advantage here is Hurl into Darkness, which lets you look at your opponent's hand and choose Pokemon out of it equal to the number of Psychic Energy attached to Gengar, and then put those Pokemon into the Lost Zone. So that's the real advantage. You don't have to actually knock out Pokemon. You could just send them into the Lost Zone, and if all goes well, that's equivalent to knocking them out. But in reality, it's not, because it doesn't take away any of their energy setup, and I suppose it does take away a bit of the resources as those Pokemon are gone, but um, it's not the whole thing is supposed to be that you're supposed to be able to hurl into darkness so many Pokemon, maybe 2 or 3 Pokemon, and then you don't have to knock out as many. But it's really hard to knock out Pokemon with just Gengar. Um, which, actually turns out to be the best way to do it, is to hurl into darkness a little bit and then knock out a few. Um, because the problem is, once you've hurled once, and then if you're lucky twice, you've only got 1 or 2 of their Pokemon in the Lost Zone, and then they don't have any more Pokemon in their hand, and they're not likely to draw a stage 2, and if they draw a stage 1, they're going to keep it in their hand. So you need to play some ways to put Pokemon into their hand. The first way to do that is to make them draw a new hand of 6 with N, especially since it's especially good because they'll be knocking out your Pokemon, but you won't be knocking out theirs, so you're always going to draw more cards than them with N later in the game. The other way to do that is with Spiritomb. It will have them shuffle their hand and draw 6 more cards. So which is good, because the real way to use Gengar is to hurl into darkness a couple of Pokemon with 1 attack. So attach 2 energy and make them shuffle up their deck and get some Pokemon there. Honestly, never put more than 3 energy on Gengar, because it's not worth it. If you ever get to hurl into darkness 3 Pokemon, you got really lucky, because people just don't play that many Pokemon where they're gonna have that many in their hand. The other way to do it is to play Seeker, which will return 1 bench Pokemon from each player's bench to their hands, um, which is really good for it guarantees that one will be in their hand, which is really important. The funny thing is, Seeker combines really well with Jirachi because you play Jirachi, search for Seeker, then you use Seeker to bring Jirachi back to your hand, play Jirachi again, get another Seeker. Um, it also, works well with Spiritomb. And Twins works on the same principle that you're not knocking out their Pokemon, which it's really nice to be able to search for two cards. So um, it's pretty powerful when you can use it. Plus, you get to use Jirachi to search for Twins. The other thing that's going on in the deck is we're playing Burbank City Gym and Hypnotoxic Laser because it is the best way you can support damage, especially in this deck since you can't play like Muscle Band's not going to do much. To that effect, we're also playing Houndoom, so we can get some damage on there. But Houndoom, I don't even know if it's worth it. It's probably not. I tried another version without it. I think it did a little better. Escape Rope can do some fun things with in combination with Seeker. You if you can manipulate which Pokemon they return, sometimes you can manipulate. You could put evolutions back into their hand with Seeker, making Hurl into Darkness really good. Honestly, though, this deck is just bad. Like, you're busy trying to hurl stuff into darkness, so you've got to set up the stage 2. While they're attacking you, you're not affecting their board at all, and they start knocking out your Pokemon. Any good deck out there can either disrupt you or put out some really heavy attackers before you get going. That said, it is fun to win with Lost World the few times that I have. Uh, maybe they'll print some cards that'll make this deck better in the future. I'm not sure what those would look like at this moment. But, alright. Let's go to the games. I got bored watching the games while trying to record commentary for this. It's really just boring games. Very few decisions that were any important. Anyways, here's the end. What the text box says when you win the game is it says you won the game by a card effect. You know how it like normally will say you won the game by knocking out your opponent's last Pokemon or taking 6 prizes. It says you won the game by a card effect. Anyways, those were the 6 Pokemon in the Lost Zone. Here we're going to try and draw Lost World, and then we just have to click Activate Stadium, and we win the game. Alright, see you next time.